Hi there, it's Sandra here. Today I'm doing a vinyl design for this, which is just a bag, and I'll show you what it's a bag for in a few minutes. So I've used shortcuts a lot to design this, and I have put a weeding box around my design, but you notice that I've cut my vinyl slightly bigger than the weeding box. Now the reason for this is because I came a little bit unstuck yesterday. I did a t-shirt design and I cut my vinyl through the backing on the actual weeding line, thinking that that would make most sense. When I actually applied it to my t-shirt, I had a streak down one side which I then had to remove, and it took a little while to remove. I did manage it, but it did take a little while to remove. So I thought the best way of avoiding that is not to have it directly on the border. Now in shortcuts a lot, because I've got the pro version, I have weeding lines and I have applied those because heck, I've got it, I might as well use it. If you do not have the pro version, you can still add your own weeding lines, you just have to do it manually, whereas mine were added more or less automatically. The other thing that I used in shortcuts a lot is the rhinestone scatter feature. Now you'll notice I am not using rhinestones, but it still creates a nice pattern and I can cut that pattern from vinyl. So that's why I use the rhinestone feature. Again, it's there, why not use it? I'm going to weed all this off and hopefully it will all weed off really nicely. I do like HTV for its weeding, I really do. I think it's because with HTV it has to have such a strong backing sheet that your bits tend to stay on there rather than coming off. It does make it easier to weed. The weeding actually applies even more if you're doing a normal vinyl, because the vinyl that you take off is sticky. This isn't sticky, it's the backing which is sticky at the moment. And if you're trying to weed normal vinyl in large pieces, you tend to get it wrapped around your fingers, it sticks to itself, and yeah, it can get quite messy. So I do tend to use the weeding when I remember. It's a habit I'm trying to get into. I'm not sure whether it's just peculiar to glitter HTV, but you can barely see the cut lines. And I was most relieved that I actually did remember to reverse my design, because generally speaking I'm not doing words, I'm usually doing patterns. My little needle tool is a homemade one. I just put a sewing machine needle in an empty pen that I had cleaned out and used hot glue to glue it into the empty ink reservoir. So anyway, this bag belongs to a Cricut Easy Press. Now normally I probably wouldn't allow a Cricut product across my threshold. Certainly not a cutting machine, not my thing at all. However, this press was found on an auction site and I got it for a fraction of the usual price. I would not have gone for it any other time, but some bargains are just too good to pass up. So that was just one of the bargains that I got recently. I'll show you another bargain or two when I finish doing this. If, by the way, you don't like having your hand stick to the backing when you're doing this, if you're inclined to lean your hand, just put a piece of baking paper over the top of it and then your hand can move around freely. That's looking pretty good. I've even got the dot over the eye, which I hadn't even thought about, to be quite honest. Okay, so this is the Easy Press that I've got. And switch it on and you can see that it was set to 160 degrees. You alter the heat by pressing the plus or the minus. You can adjust a timer on here. Well, that's just on and off. And then that goes green when it reaches the temperature. Now, what do I not like about this? What I dislike is that on opening this, and it was brand new, still in the wrapper. It didn't even have a plug on. What I dislike about this is that when I first switched it on, it read app, and you could not do anything with it at all until you installed Cricut Heat app. Once you'd installed the app, you had to have a Cricut account. As it happened, I had one which I'd completely forgotten about because I had it to help a friend out, and it still realised that I had one, so I didn't have to create one. But to have to actually use an app to switch it on in the first place and get it to heat up, because you could press the button, it would come on, but all you could see was app, and it would not heat, it would not do anything. It was entirely unusable without an app. So even to use it manually, you had to install an app. And then you had to have a Cricut account in order to complete the process, which of course required your name and your email and whatever. And you had to do that. If you didn't, this would be a completely useless piece of kit. Now, I object to that. This is nothing more than a fancy square iron, really and truly. Now, if I wanted to have Cricut tell me, oh, use this temperature for this and that time for that, yes, I would have been prepared. It goes up to temperature. I would have been prepared to download an app to do it. But if I don't want that, what I object to is being forced to do that in order to get it to work. Anyway, I'm going to iron this slightly. Press my 15 seconds. It probably isn't going to take much more than that to flatten this. And then I'm going to iron on my design. Put my design on. I'm just going to stand up, check that it's straight, because I would be annoyed if I had it on crooked. Yeah, that looks fine. Cool it down a bit. There we have it. Be passionately creative. Now you could put that design on a t-shirt if you so wished. Just going to put a piece of baking parchment over it and just give it another bit of heat, just to make sure that all the edges are done. There we are, completed, and I think that looks pretty good. So that was my first little buy, and then the other thing that I spotted in the auction was these, and it's a dough scraper. Now you might think, well, why buy a dough scraper from an auction house? For a start, I haven't seen any small flat ones like this around locally, and the bid was only for €2, and I thought that was perfectly acceptable because I now have 180 of them. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with 180 dough scrapers, but I figure they will be pretty good for scraping mats as well as for use in the kitchen. I dare say my husband will have use for some of them. I'll have use for a few more, but yeah, 180 dough scrapers for €2. I couldn't really go wrong with that, could I? Oh dear, whatever next. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show you is this. I spent quite a while designing my own pen holders for my Siser Juliet, and this is what I've come up with. They're pretty simple, but they work beautifully, and they are tailored to the pens that I have. So with this particular range, I have got one for the Stabilo hex pens. I've got Pentel metallics and pastel markers, my Sakura jelly rolls, and I have a lot of Sakura jelly rolls, my touch calligraphy, my stapler liners, MPCD markers, manuscript calligraphy pens, large barrel Signo ones, and Carioca watercolour brush pens. Yay! So I've got that. And then today I designed the holder for them because I figured that I could either put this, stick it onto one of my drawers, or even my window frame, which is directly in front of me, or even, heavens forbid, at the side of my machine if I was that desperate. No, I probably won't put it on the side of my machine, but I will probably stick it in front of me so that when I choose a pen to use, I've got them directly to hand. So yeah, I was quite pleased with the way that turned out. It took me a while to work out how to do those things at an angle. And in case you're wondering, for 3D design I use Tinkercad. I am not brilliant at 3D design, but with Tinkercad I can do it reasonably easily. It works on the same kind of basis as Boolean parse, so you have one thing, you subtract it from another. It works with shapes and things in a very similar way. So yeah, I was pleased with the way that came out. Hubby put it into the 3D printer for me to print it. And I now have a whole range of pen adapters so I can use my pens in my Juliet. Yay, I've missed being able to do that. Okay, that's it for today. Thanks for watching. Take care now.